Next point of order is from Honorable Katung.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sunday Marshal Katung. I represent the people of Zangon Katab and Jaba Federal Constituency, and I'm from Kaduna State. My motion is premised on Order 8 Rules 4. It's a motion on a matter of urgent public importance, urging the need for the inclusion of Kaduna State and Plateau States in the states affected by the herdsmen farmers crisis that the National Economic Council Working Group subcommittee will visit for consultations. I therefore call on the House to suspend all relevant rules and consider this matter urgent to enable me take it immediately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Dende.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Emmanuel Memga Udende. I represent Kasnala Okum Logo Federal Constituency and from Benue State. I stand to second the motion as moved by my honorable colleague. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. I serve it. Seconded to the same name, Honorable Pondi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Julius Babudo Pondi. I represent the very kind people, wonderful people of Butifera constituency, Mr. Speaker, is coming from Delta State. I rise to second leg of the motion, ably moved by my colleague, Honorable Sunday Katung. I so second.
Order.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. I serve it. Honorable Katung, please move your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, Sunday Marshal Katung. I represent the people of Zangon Katab and Jaba Federal Constituency. I'm from Kaduna State. My motion is titled The Urgent Need for the Inclusion of Kaduna and Plateau States in the states affected by the herdsmen farmers crisis that the National Economic Council Working Group subcommittee will visit for consultations. The House recalls that the herdsmen farmers crisis is perhaps currently the singular and deadliest threat to Nigeria's national security. Further recalls that apart from the wanton loss of lives and massive displacement of persons, it is reported that Nigeria loses enormous resources annually as a result of these clashes. Encouraged that the federal government, under the auspices of the National Economic Council, recently set up a working group subcommittee to be chaired by His Excellency David Umahi, the Executive Governor of Ebonyi State, to visit states affected by the herdsmen farmers conflict to hold consultations with stakeholders and interested parties on how to bring an end to the conflicts. Notes that the press release from the Office of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria intimating of the setting up of the subcommittee named the affected states to be visited by the committee as Benue, Taraba, Zamfara, and Adamawa states. Concerned that two of the hotbeds of these conflicts, Kaduna and Plateau states, were presumably inadvertently omitted from the states to be visited by the subcommittee. Bearing in mind that in post-election violence in 2011, hundreds of people were killed in patterns suggesting a fallout from the herdsmen farmers conflict, that as recently as July 2017, 37 persons were allegedly killed in Banono village in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State in one of the clashes, and that according to reports, over 2,000 persons were killed in Benue and Kaduna States in 2016, and that every writing regarding the conflict has mentioned Kaduna State as one of the foregrounds of the crisis. Also bearing in mind that the crisis has assumed varying dimensions in Plateau State, sometimes under the characterization of indigenous settlers, that this is an age-long crisis in Plateau, in that every discussion regarding the conflict has identified Plateau State as one of the crisis-prone states. Anxious that the omission of these two states from the interactions and consultations with the subcommittee will only ensure that the conflicts are not finally comprehensively and conclusively addressed, which we believe is the true intent of the federal government. Determine that every effort must be put in place to save Nigeria from these needless and brutal killings, and that the inclusion of Kaduna and Plateau states will advance this objective. Resolves to mandate the Committee on Public Safety and Intelligence to immediately contact and liaise with the Office of the Vice President to ensure the inclusion of both Kaduna and Plateau states among the states affected by the crisis, that the National Economic Council Working Group Subcommittee will consult and report to the House within 2 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Karimi Sunday. I'm from Kogi State. I represent Yaba West East Mapamoro Federal Constituency. I hereby second the motion as moved.
Honorable Kato.
Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, this is yet another opportunity for us seated here to show Nigerians that we truly care about what affects them as their representatives. This motion as presented is explicit in context and content, since it merely seeks for the inclusion of 2 states that we assume were inadvertently omitted amongst the states to be visited by the Presidential Committee despite their known history of crisis. To buttress my point and further justification in support of this motion, I have a compendium and historical analysis of this crisis in the 2 states as far back as 1980, with particular reference to Kaduna State. From 1980 to year 2010, there were 16 major crises in Kaduna State with attendant loss of life and property of citizens. Again, from 2011 up to January 2018, there have been about 77 major conflicts, attacks, leading to many lives being lost and property, including houses, farm products, and businesses being. Also, in a recent summit organized by an NGO titled Search for Common Ground, in collaboration with Abdul Salami Abubakar Institute for Peace and Sustainable Development, it said that in 2016 alone, about 2,500 people were killed, 62,000 people displaced, and 13.7 billion naira lost to herdsmen farmer crisis in affected states, and the states included Kaduna and Plateau. Also, it was reported.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, on 20th July 2017, it was reported in the Vanguard newspaper that about 33 people were killed in Kajuro village in Kaduna State following herdsmen and farmers crisis. Also, in this day newspaper of 27 January 2018, it stated that at least 5 people were killed, 8 severely injured, and 20 houses set ablaze in a fresh attack allegedly perpetrated by armed herdsmen in Jebu Miango village in Basa local government area of Plateau State. On the 27th of October 2017, citing with approval the Stephanos Foundation report that between 8th September and 17th October 2017, not fewer than 75 people were killed, 23 injured, 13,726 persons displaced, and 489 houses burned following attacks by suspected herdsmen in Ribwe Kingdom, Basa local government of Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, how long will this go on before we say enough is enough? The federal government was a welcome development and received with joy by all, but it turned to sadness for the citizens of these 2 states when they were overlooked in this noble objective aimed at bringing the wanton killing and destruction of property to an end. The past, they often say, belongs to history. The present belongs to us, and the future belongs to God and the next generation. But I hasten to add that those who forget their past are determined to repeat it, and our present is not secured as elites of our immediate environment and finally, what kind of future are we bequeathing to the next generation? if we don't bring this to an end. On this note, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, I urge all of us to support this motion to give our fellow citizens in Kaduna and Plateau, and indeed any part of this country, a voice at this critical time. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
It's a very, very straightforward motion, but I'll just recognize additionally 2 members and then I'll put the question. Honorable Jagaba will speak and Honorable Dr. M.S. Abdu.
Right, Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Jagaba Adams Jagaba, representing the constituency. I am of the PDP. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Jagaba? No, you can't do this now.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Zachary, what is your point of order? Honorable Zachary has a point of order.
Order.
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker. By our last check, Mr. Speaker, my name is... No order. Wait now. No order. Order. Mr. Speaker, I need protection. Which order? No, which order? Privilege. My privilege. Matter of privilege. Which privilege? Mr. Speaker, my name is Zachary Mohammed. I represent Baruten Crime and Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I need protection. Please.
Well, Honorable Zachary, please take your seat. Don't mind them. Honorable Jagaba, the truth is that I'm not aware, and the House is not aware. Yes. And as a ranking member, you know the right thing to do, and you haven't done it. So as far as we are concerned, you are still a member of the APC until you do the needful. So you can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is well noted. That's well noted, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Please, order.
The point of order raised by my brother and friend, Honorable Katun, is a point that this House, is a motion that this House that must look with passion. Mr. Speaker, all this crisis about Fulani herdsmen started in southern other parts of other states. This crisis has been on and on just for the past 6 years or thereabout. In one village, 153 people were slaughtered in the night in Bondon. And after that one, 50, 30, 60 in one local government. Then they spread it to Jamai, spread it to Sanga. Thousands of people lost their lives. Mr. Speaker, for the committee not to involve Kaduna in the consultation is unfair, because they really don't want to treat the problem. They're trying to treat the symptoms, not the issues on ground. We need to be included. Mr. Speaker, as I'm talking to you, up to now, our people are still being killed. Last week, one of the biggest farmers in southern Kaduna was assassinated. And what was the reason? He was warned that the farm he's occupying, farming, is too big. And that place, they love the grass in that place, so he should leave. If he doesn't leave, they will kill him. And they kept trailing this man. Before you know it, last week, he was assassinated. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this without any apology. These herdsmen The security men know where they are in southern Kaduna. Mr. Speaker, to protest that point, when the 2 expatriates were kidnapped, the 2 orderlies or security personnel attached to them were killed. As a result of that, the police went to the right point and surrounded them. And they started killing them because they killed the police. All the others ran away. The 2 expatriates is a fact on ground. We are left on their own. Nobody paid any compensation. Then the police, which means the police know what they're doing. In my constituency and the Biningwari constituency, where Shekaro is representing, and the leader, the chief minority whip, these 3 constituencies in Kaduna are where these terrorist kidnappers reside. There are people that were brought by the community, Mr. Speaker, because of the seriousness of the security agents. The people brought what they call in Hausa Yansape, which means the interveners or something like that. Yeah, they came under one night. They arrested over 100 of them. And over 27 AK-47 were recovered. These were the people police brought and parade that they arrested them. As we are talking now, Mr. Speaker, police are telling these people that, look, go, you are doing our work, we don't want you here. The governor of the state was approached to give support to the community because the community gathered each family 100 naira per day to feed 150 people interveners. The government refused to do it. That they are just arresting people without his permission. And Mr. Speaker, on daily basis they arrest them. That's why today you can drive to Kaduna, you don't fear any kidnappers because the presence of these interveners. The police are there, they're not doing anything. The governor is there, he's not doing anything. Mr. Speaker, let me say this. In this country, we have to run this country in such a way, a manner that everybody will have a sense of belonging. But when there's a security problem in one area, you give attention. In another area, you close your eyes. Mr. Speaker, it's unfair to our people. Now, let me say this, Mr. Speaker. The number of people killed in our place by herdsmen are 3 times higher than the one killed in Benue. But why is the Benue case different? Because they have a governor that is standing by his people. They have a governor that is ready to handle the bull by the horn. That's why they are succeeding. That's why the international community, even state governors, are reaching to sympathize with them. But in our own case, we don't have a voice. Now, with this, Mr. Speaker, whom are we to take our cry to? I want to use this. If the Nigerian government cannot do this, if they have failed us, I believe the international community will hear this. The United Nations should hear this. And the most important thing, the Almighty God is hearing us. And he's going to send his ballistic missiles to destroy those people. And come 2019, Mr. Speaker, come 2019, we as a people, we've agreed we are not going to take AK-47 for any repression. We are not going to take any AK-47 to attack any people, but this voter's card is our AK-47. We are going to vote out people that are insensitive to our insecurity. We are going to vote out people that are not people-oriented in whatever they're doing. Mr. Speaker, that's our solace, and 2019 is by the door.
Members, you are not charged with trying to rig Jagaba's defection. So don't rig it, though. Honorable Dr. MS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Dr. Muhammad Sani Abdu, Al-Kalerikil Federal Constituency, original APC, and I will remain in APC, inshallah. But I am not here for the political part of it. Everybody will answer his father's name when he goes to the constituency. But for now, I stand to support the motion ably raised by Mr. Khatum responsibly. This is because of just a sentence said by Jagaba that the crisis of the herdsmen had its birth in southern Kaduna. And why I'm supporting this is that today, if the visitation takes place in Kaduna and Plateau, a different story will be told, because peace has returned to the Plateau and peace is returning strongly into southern Kaduna by God's grace. Sir, I want to seek the indulgence of this to just read a paragraph of an article written by a professor of law from Ahmadu Bello University, that himself an indigent of southern Kaduna, what he has just discovered on going home for a weekend. His name is Professor Kiuka Lilimok. He's a professor of law from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Right from his childhood, he used to go home from time to time to commune with nature in his village. And the name of the village is Bafai Kanai. He went recently, and as he went home, within the vestibule of the house, he saw a young man with a stick going out of their own compound. And he said, by just, stereotyping, he felt in his mind that this is a Fulani boy. Then he went into the house and met his uncle. And he asked the uncle, "Who is this boy?" The uncle answered, and I will quote. The uncle said, "He is a Fulani boy. He slept in this house. Their kraal is not far from here. Our children go pasturing cattle with them. We have no problem with Fulani people here. They live among us, we live among them here." When I encountered the boy in the vestibule, before I came to know he was a Fulani boy, I had spoken to him in Tiap, that is the local language of Kataf. And he responded me in the same language. What I was now being told was further corroborated by the boy speaking Tiap with me. I was happy, and as I was stunned by all these discoveries, he went on, and finally he ended up saying, Who are the limbs raking the stench and palming it off Fulani herdsmen? Who are the jinns spouting the dirt and pinning the rap in Fulani herdsmen? Who are the scoundrels raping the land while Fulani herdsmen are the fall guys taking the can? What is happening? Why can't our intelligence services unmask the masquerades causing chaos in the land and hand them over to the people for judgment? And I stand my case here. A lot of good is happening on the ground, and I think this visitation will unearth that people are reconciling at the grassroots. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I said Dr. MS will speak last, but I recognize someone from Plateau State, one of the states mentioned in the motion, Honorable Aidijan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I rise to speak to this very important motion and to say it is indeed very important and timely, given the import of the initiative by the National Executive Council under the Vice President to engage and consult with stakeholders from the states adversely affected by this violent herdsmen attacks and farmer herdsmen conflict. Mr. Speaker, any initiative that is aimed at bringing the senseless killings to an end is most welcome. The concern raised by the motion that Kaduna State and Plateau State are excluded from the affected states, as has been said, must have been an error of inadvertence. My constituency, Bariki-Ladi Riam, today, Mr. Speaker, has over 44 villages that have been completely displaced and are under occupation, in addition to what is currently happening in Basa local government, particularly in Mayango Chiefdom, and also in Bokos local government of Plateau State, where we are still witnessing loss of lives as a result of these violent attacks. Mr. Speaker, the committee constituted under the National Economic Council will have the opportunity to come face to face with the plight of the victims of displacement as a result of this violent attacks in Plateau State. The need, therefore, for the recovery that the committee going should, as part of its mandate, that this House would want to include is that, apart from engaging with the stakeholders, the issue of recovery of lands that are under occupation and the reconstruction of destroyed villages, reintegration of displaced persons and communities is something that should be taken into consideration. I want to once again support this motion that Plateau and Kaduna State be included in the visitation panel that has been constituted by the National Economic Council. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues. That's my submission.
Honorable colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it.